I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at insori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the Village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy merch.
And a child shall lead them into buying our merch. Speaking of which, this is for the big homie Robert.
Yes, he's actually dedicating this song to his good friend Tom, who passed away in 2020, February of 2020. So that's a pretty painful thing, the first time he's lost a friend. So
rest in peace to the homie. We're gonna watch the official video because that's what the homie requested. If you don't see the official video, it's because the Filthy Capitalist at the record label blocked it. Because we play the songs all the way through, we don't cut them up, and so sometimes that results in a video getting blocked.
But hopefully not.
So that you can't hear it. Yeah, I mean, that's why we did Patreon as an alternative, because we basically figured, hey, that'll offset the because otherwise we would have to do the cutting up thing, and
we don't want to do that.
Not part of how we do it. So that's why we're doing it this way. So anyway, it's on the way, guys. Once I fix my technical... And once that gets settled, yep, here we go. All right, so here we go. Lord of the Lost. The name of this song is Morgana. And let's do it. Whoa.
Fate will let
out.
That was deep.
Yeah, it was very good.
Very pretty sounding. Shout out to the big homie Morgana, whoever she is. So it looks like this was written, as a tribute to Morgana, right? Whoever she was. Holy moly. What do you got?
Well, he just said that obviously Tom was his friend and the first friend he ever lost so abruptly. It was a stroke of sorts. Some months before I showed him this band and he really enjoyed their music. I will happily apply some additional information of the background of the song Morgana. And then he said it had to do with mythology, but I know you don't like having a bunch of information, so...
No, go ahead.
No, that was it. He didn't provide the information because I said you like to go into it raw.
What was his friend's name again?
Tom. Oh, cool. So... I loved the way that the sound of his voice was surprising. I didn't expect that. It kind of reminded me of Rammstein a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, the way when it first started.
It sounded like, to me, it felt like, like those Swedish bands, because he was kind of singing with an accent, which is pretty awesome.
Hold on. I just want to catch his voice right at the beginning. Taking a little longer than I remembered for him to start singing. That rolling.
Yeah.
You can't hear any Rammstein at all?
Well, I just think it's, it's a European accent, right? So, but I don't know. It just sounds more like some of those, Swedish bands. Is this band from Sweden?
I don't know. I don't know anything about them.
But I loved it, man. I love the passion in the song. Mm-hmm. I loved what they were doing with the synth. I like synth when it's like salt.
Not too much.
Not too much. Not to where it's like completely noticeable and it's like driving the entire song. Like, I don't like that type of synth. But this was good. It was just a nice compliment, and I appreciated it. So, yeah, man.
He said, fate will echo between the worlds, through the shores of the fallen souls, to this land that I served with pride, visions clear in the fading light, and we will walk through the shadows of pain. Come and walk with me to the end. And we will walk through the shadows of pain. Come and walk with me to the end. That is a good set of lines there.
Yeah, and I just think that when you have somebody that's that important to you and has a massive impact on your life, it's extremely difficult to just go on like nothing happened. Like you gotta give some sort of recognition to that person. Mm-hmm. So it was really interesting though in the chorus where it says all is condemned. How did you take that? How did you read that? So
when he said, come and walk with me to the end, all is condemned, so walk with me to the end, free from regret, yet will I ascend her. So like that whole part to me was like basically when you get to the point where you're like, well, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, all is condemned, so let's just walk with me to the end. And then I liked the part where it said free from regret, because as I've said before, regret was a theme that was a major in my life, and it was something that as a teenager, I thought a lot about, and I said, I am going to live my life so as never to have regrets, because I heard so many older people saying how they regretted this, they regretted that, and I was like, I have the great fortune of recognizing that I don't want to have regrets before I have them. So then I proceeded to live my life free of regrets, only to find myself this age with regrets. I think regrets just become a part of life because you make decisions and you make choices and you don't necessarily know what the outcome of those are going to be. And sometimes you do things because it seems like the right thing, or sometimes you just say, fuck it. But this to me, it was kind of like a nihilist sort of mindset. It's all condemned, so walk. But then at the same time, add that sort of rising sound to it. And the free from regret didn't sound like nihilism to me.
Yeah, I think. But
I too felt like meeting Morgana. Okay, go ahead.
I think all is condemned, it depends on what he means. If you say somebody's condemned to death, it doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. It just means like you're going to die and there's no way around it. So like, for example, cancer, is a death sentence to a degree. I think what he's saying is, look, all of us are gonna die. It's a way of saying all of us are gonna die. So let's just walk together. I mean, so in the universe of this song, it looks like relationships, long-lasting relationships, are the ultimate value, because all of us are going to die and all we have is each other in this life. So I didn't think it was a nihilistic perspective. Nihilism is we're all condemned, so eat, drink, and be merry, everything is meaningless. Whereas here, what's in the backdrop of all is condemned is let's walk together till the end without regrets. And that is not a nihilistic worldview. That is, hey, we're gonna find meaning in each other, and we're gonna walk together without regrets, however that works. As far as regret go, when you're a strong believer in fate, I guess. I was reading this one thing. I was listening to this one biography of this Muslim dude, and there was a plague, and he said, no. Yeah. He said. And his friend was like, don't go into that city, there's a plague. And the guy said, no, I'm going to go in, and whatever is written for me is going to happen to me. So sure enough, he went in, and sure enough, he caught the plague, and sure enough, he died, and sure enough, his best friend was like, why did you do that? And the guy's like, well, you can't escape from the qadar of Allah. Then there was another one, which was really, really interesting, where the guy...
I hate stuff like that.
Which, I mean, that's kind of my mentality. Like... There was this duty. He was supposed to go to that city. Yeah, that city had a plague, and yeah, hundreds of people were dying, but he's going to go and fulfill his duty. And if it's written for him to survive it, he'll survive it. If not, he won't. And I carry that mentality I carried that into a lot of situations. And if you really believe that when you're in the middle of it, you remain calm. If you don't believe it, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on if you... Like, I guess if you have a purpose for going in there, but if you're like, well, I'm going to step in front of this tractor trailer truck. If I survive, I survive. If not, I guess it wasn't in the will of the gods.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just dumb. And God will probably, probably call you an idiot when he sees you, but come inside. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, I don't have any regrets, but that's because of my theology. Theologically speaking, if you really pin me down, everything that happened, whether I stubbed my toe or whether we got into that massive car accident, was written for me. So I don't really, how can you regret anything if it was written for you? And the other side of that is it made me, who I am today. And so I just, to me, regret is it's one of those emotions that I see a lot of people have that I don't have. There's a couple things that other people have that I don't have that I think make me a difficult person to relate to. Like I don't know if regret is a good emotion or a bad emotion to have. I just know that it makes me very difficult to relate to, because when people, blah blah blah, should have never done that, blah blah blah, I'm just kind of like, well, I mean, if it was wrong, if it was sinful, then I'm going to do better next time. And if it wasn't sinful, but, things didn't go my way, well, I mean, it wasn't meant for it to go my way. So I'm not saying that I don't look back at, for example, I wish Tom Brady, to this day, I wish he would have been able to have his perfect season against the Giants. And I wish that bastard would have never caught the football on his head. You know what I'm saying? But, I don't know if you can characterize that as regret. It's just, I don't walk around with a lot of regrets for stuff. But like I said, I think it's one of the things that makes relating to me difficult for you, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Because...
Well, yeah, because I'll have things that I'm like, I wish that would have never happened. I wish I wouldn't have said this, or I wish I wouldn't have done that thing, or I wish I would have done something. And then... Yeah, well, it kind of goes into the same bucket of where if you do something wrong, you'll just be like, oh, sorry, and then you just move forward. And I'm like, are you gonna hang your head, or are you gonna feel, you know what I mean? Like, I want to see some remorse.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Will
And
I?
you're the opposite, because you're like, what's the use in hanging your head about something? Like, if you're sorry, say you're sorry and then move forward, but it does make it a little bit weird to understand each other.
Now, when you've lost somebody, and Morgana, I'm assuming, is
well, he
looks
said that
like-
it was mythology.
right. So there's some mythological thing back there. Will I ascend to her? Will I meet Morgana soon? Bodies will, but the
Mind's
mind's
serene.
Oh, bodies wilt, but the
Yeah.
mind is serene for a life worthy of her grace. Yeah, that's one of those. I don't know if it's a bad situation, but it's one of the things I've thought about. When Moses died, it said that his eyes were still strong, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And it's to say that Moses didn't die because he, of old age, basically, is the idea. But I've always thought to myself, like, because, like, in TV shows and things like that, the person's mind was dying along with their body.
Yeah.
Like, like, no disrespect, but there's a very famous person that all of us are watching mentally decline right in front of our eyes, and I don't think it's funny. So usually, but I always think to myself, like, what would happen if you had a body that was breaking down, but a mind that was still as sharp? And I almost feel like that would be worse than the other thing, but I'm not sure. I really don't know. Like, what would be worse, to like have your mind go along with your body, or to have your mind completely lucid, but your body isn't cooperating with you and is sort of, disintegrating around you? Well, I'm not sure.
When I think of the mind deteriorating, it depends on how it deteriorates. So, for instance, if your mind is kind of just becoming mushy and it's almost like you're now in a state of being high, you know what I'm saying? Like, where you're kind of like, you don't really care and you're okay, you're just kind of floating through life. Maybe that's not so bad. But if your mind is super sharp and your body is failing, or you can feel your mind slipping from you and you don't have the things that you used to have, I can see that being a wildly frustrating feeling, especially if it's happening at the same time that your body's not, to have them both at the same time and recognize that you're losing both. I think that's huge and extremely painful. But like I said, if you're kind of just slipping off and you're just like,
Yeah, and then when you look at,
but I don't know what it's like.
You look at Hoffman. Hoffman's idea is that consciousness came first, not matter, which has a ton of implications. And I sat and heard him say one time, we are all consciousnesses who create the physical world so that we could interact with other consciousnesses. Mm-hmm. Because I guess disembodied consciousnesses cannot relate to each other well. I mean, he hasn't really fleshed this out, because it's such a revolutionary idea from the scientific world. Mm-hmm. Of course, from our world view, we've said it from the beginning. That consciousness preceded matter. And it is also true that we believe that consciousness generated matter so as to interconnect with other conscious beings that he then placed in a material context so that he could then have some sort of relationship with them.
Right.
So, but Hoffman is a scientist, so he's not going to say. So all he can see is us. Mm-hmm. He knows that matter cannot boot up consciousness. He knows that, and so he's abandoning. A lot of people say, "Oh, science will eventually figure out." Hoffman's like, science will never figure that out. We'd have a much better chance at saying that consciousness came first than to say that matter came first and got us consciousness.
Right.
He'd rather say, no, consciousness came first and got us matter, and we've all collectively created this physical universe so that we could interact with each other. And if that's the case, then in either worldview, whether it's ours, biblical worldview, or his, in either case, if that is true, then relationships are the most important thing in the world. Because that means then that relationships are the reason for what we call the world in the first place. And so that's why Hoffman is such a compelling figure to me. And at some point, I'm going to try to get an interview with him and whatever. But if you plug that mentality in, this Morgana person or Morgana, whatever, had such an impact on him that even after he wants to leave this reality to get to where she is, will I ascend to her? And I'm assuming Rob is in kind of, you always feel like that when you have your first death. I mean, I remember my first, me and my brother were talking about it, was my little nephew. I guess he would be my nephew or my cousin, but he died like 6-7 months in utero. And it was the first funeral I ever went to. And, my mom said he was with Jesus and all the rest of it, which is, yeah, but he's not with us. Mm-hmm. And my thing was, I didn't care if he was with Jesus. Jesus has lots of people to hang out with. I just had my one, nephew. So that wasn't really a lot of comfort for me. Because I'm left behind and he's having this amazing Jesus. And it was funny because I wasn't looking at it like this baby now is having an amazing experience with Jesus. I was looking at it as Jesus took him being selfish because he's got millions of people up there. Mm-hmm. And I had this one nephew that I was waiting to be born. And then Jesus took it from me because he wants him, whatever. Yeah. So that was no comfort to me at the time. I was like, I mean, geez, man, you got a whole bunch of people. You couldn't, and then on top of it was like, well, why did you even let me get attached to this? Because it wasn't my baby, it wasn't my mom's baby, it was my mom's sister's baby, and I just became so attached, and I was looking up baby names and all this, and so, my thing, I was like, well, if you were gonna take him, then why did you let me get attached to him? Mm-hmm. Well, don't let me get attached to him and then take him. What the hell, So. My mom was sitting there like trying to comfort me, and I just kind of nodded to my mother because, I wanted her to be able to think that she took care of, me emotionally in that situation. But it didn't really do much for me, as far as comfort goes. Mm-hmm. Will I ascend to her? Will I meet her soon? My desire as I depart, give my peace back to her.
I'm not really sure what I thought. I do remember hearing people say, oh, they're with Jesus. Oh, they're with Jesus. But I don't really know how I felt about that. I remember them saying it, and I remember being at bunches of funerals, but...
Yeah, I had my friend Jim. He had cancer, but the guy was like in his 60s. So I was like...
Yeah.
And it killed... Jim was the first funeral I cried at. And it killed me because he was a really good friend. And honestly, Jim, was the best human being I've ever met in my entire life.
So many people say that.
In my entire life.
Every single person that knew him says that.
I don't think I've actually ever seen him do anything wrong, ever. And I know he must have, but I just never saw it. And I loved him, man. And he died. That was a real hard one. But I remember being at his funeral and feeling, the only time I ever remembered feeling like the way that I felt at Jim's funeral was at my brother's graduation at Marine Corps graduation. When he graduated, he did his time at Paris Island and all the rest of it.
Yeah, what?
And when I saw my brother first walk in, like I lost my mind. I've got the video. I'm gonna find it somewhere and play it. But when I saw, because I hadn't seen my brother in such a long time, and he was grinding, and he wrote like 2 or 3 letters and stuff. But when he walked into that gym, bro, like shit was like, he was like a different person, and he was on some gangster shit. Like the way he was standing, I was like, yeah, that's my brother. I was like so excited. And I was so proud of him. And yeah, I felt that way at Jim's funeral. Like I felt
that you were proud of Jim.
It was, Jesus was next to me the entire funeral.
Oh, okay.
And he said to me, "This is a graduation, man." Like he graduated. Like it was one of those things where it was like I had just this feeling he was being honored. Like the guy, like he completed his course, he finished his mission.
Wow.
And Jesus couldn't bear being away from him for another second. He took him, but the whole time at the funeral, Jesus was like, "Look, man, he graduated, man, he did it." And I felt extremely proud of him. And there, I remember saying like, "Okay, I understand. I understand." Because he loaned him to us for a while. Like that one, like I completely understood it. I got it. I was fine. I wouldn't trade a single moment that I had with him, even though it hurt me to lose him. But the baby, I didn't understand. To this moment,
Yeah.
it's just a qadar of Allah, whatever. But the baby didn't make sense to me because I had no.
The qadar of Allah means like the will of God.
I had no like relationship to the baby. I talked to my aunt's belly like all the time. She'd like, she'd see me like looking at him across, looking at her like across the room. She's like, "You want to talk to the baby, Vin? Come on."
Oh,
I'm like, yeah,
that's so cute.
It's her belly, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She'd pull up her little shirt, and I'd talk to the baby. I used to call him Baby Aziz. Because I was on my Africa shit.
Yeah.
Like, you have to name him after our ancestors. She's like, okay, Vin, what is it? She wasn't going to do that shit. I don't know what she was going to name him. But me and her, we used to call him Aziz. I was like, how's Aziz doing? Did he let you sleep? Blah, blah, blah. And then, rest in peace to the homie. I have no idea. I have no idea why. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, man. But music is such an incredible thing. If you look at the lyrics here and you look at, it's crazy. Like, Tom was listening to this band and started to like this band, and then he just passes away unexpectedly. So it's like a little gift. Like, hey, you guys have this music to remember him by and all the rest of it. And nobody knew that he was on his way out, and then boom.
Wow.
So now you've got this song, and now he's, Rob sent this out to everybody, and now everybody's going to be able to, now everybody knows who, Tom's name and all the rest of it. So shout out to the homie. But yeah, shit is hard, bro. But if you can find at least one good friend that's willing to like go from A to Z with you, like, boom, you're rich. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I always feel bad, like when you see like Jeff Bezos or recently Bill Gates and the relationships don't work out. I always feel bad for these mega rich people because it's like the next time you get into a relationship, you can't know. Whereas, Bill, like, and Bezos, like, if you're with people that are with you from the beginning before you're rich, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would do my best to, like, make that work because after that, you have no idea.
Right.
Right. And, like, if Hoffman's theory is true and the Bible is true, then the entire material universe is just there for us to find each other. Like, the whole thing was made for us to find each other. So if all you have is money, if all you have is material when you leave this place, and your consciousness hasn't intertwined with another person's consciousness such that they know you and you know them, man, you this is the ultimate tragedy, bro. It really is. So it really, songs like this kind of put things into perspective, and that's why the Bible encourages us to dwell on death often, and I do.
Not in a morbid sense.
Yeah. So there you are. What do you got it? What do you give it?
9.8, 9.9. I liked it. I really, really liked it.
Yeah, really, really good song. Very touching. I'm going to give it a 9.74.
9.85 for me.
There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.